Peace. So this is gonna be obviously part two. Um, just to recap, on the last video I did, I read from the not the Library of Congress, from Congress.gov, Congressional Record of October 23rd, 2017, where several congressmen and women of the Congressional Black Caucus revealed that COINTELPRO 2.0 is alive to this very day, and it was revealed to them allegedly via the Black Identity Extremist Report uh, authorized by Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of the United States, and under the Trump administration, which they stated that, um, you know, none of these things were done under the previous administrations. And, you know, watch the video to be clear that they attacked, assaulted, murdered, illegally and unlawfully and unconstitutionally investigated um, people that stood for peace, like Martin Luther King Jr. So we can't say that just because I have this in my house that this makes me a target, because the Congress admitted that the FBI, COINTELPRO, attacked innocent people exercising their First Amendment right. Congress admitted that. Congress admitted that. Congress admitted that the FBI is attacking people using their Second Amendment right and their First Amendment right and any amendment you can think of. Congress admitted that the FBI, if you look up, if YouTube search Congresswoman Omar uh, addressing the House of Representatives regarding Fred Hampton and COINTELPRO, you'll see that the FBI, in collusion with Chicago police, entered Fred Hampton's home. He was 20 years old or 21 years old, if I'm not mistaken, in his early 20s, part of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. That was the official name of the Black Panther Party. It was the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. And you'll see where, you know, Congresswoman Barbara Lee admitted that, you know, she was part of the Black Panther Party and their 10-point program, which fed children and things like that, and how the United States government murdered Fred Hampton and then used their 10-point program to start, you know, the United States, um, you know, feed the children stuff. So they stole our ideas, murdered our leaders, and then, you know, moved forward. Um, so you'll see, you know, several congressmen and women admitting that the FBI, in collusion with local police, state police, things like that, um, were involved in counterintelligence program to murder our leaders, to murder them, or imprison them for their entire lives, to prevent any type of progress as it relates to our people, as it relates to us being independent and us separating from the United States, which clearly does not represent us. They clearly don't give a fuck about us. And, you know, hopefully you can use your common sense and you see that from the congressional record, from the congressmen and women themselves. Right? So that's to show you that COINTELPRO is still active to this day. All right? So now I'm going to go into the church committee. So again, if you want to look at the documents that I read yesterday and that I just went over, Google. What I did was I Googled this. I Googled Barbara Lee congressional speech on counterintelligence program, and the first thing that popped up was Congress.gov, the this document. That's the first thing that popped up. So it's not hard to find. So if you want to find that, it's easy to find. The next two documents that I'm going to go into, which I'm going to try to keep this short, but this next two documents I'm going to go into, Google search Senate.gov. I went over this in the last video, but for those of you who didn't see the last video, I'm telling you now. Google Senate.gov space church committee. of 1975. Once you click on the link from Senate.gov, so again, this is from the United States Congress, not me, where they're admitting that they murder our leaders. It doesn't matter if they're peaceful or not. They were targeting the student non-violent party. They were targeting feminist organizations, all these non-violent people that they were attacking. They wrote letters to Martin Luther King Jr. so he commit suicide. They wrote letters to Jeff Fort, lying to him, saying that the Black Panther Party was going to assassinate him. They called, if I'm not mistaken, or wrote a letter to Stokely Carmichael's mother saying that the Black Panther Party wanted to kill him. So then he fled the country. He left the next day, and then they were talking about how successful that was. And you're going to say that I can't bear arms in my house? Meanwhile, this is what the FBI admits to. So again, go to Senate.gov, space Church Committee. Scroll down until you see a link called Final Report. Click on the Final Report, and it'll take you to another page. And you'll see where they have several links. The first link is this book right here, Volume 6, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and that's what I'm going to go into right now. And I have the link right here just so you can see. Right, so I'm going to go into this right now, and I'm going to go into that too. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep it short because it's a lot of information. Right, so boom, page 2. Over 4 years ago, the Senate Subcommittee on Constitutional Rights exposed the massive surveillance of Americans by the United States Army intelligence systems. Earlier this year, we learned of extensive domestic intelligence gathering by the CIA. Now we look at the FBI, the most important domestic intelligence agency of all. The Bureau's reports provided much of the raw material for both Army intelligence and CIA domestic intelligence operations. Our own hearings in September showed that FBI intelligence officers helped develop the 1970 Hudson Plan with an eye toward an even greater expansion of surveillance programs directed against American citizens. Today, we are here to review the major findings of the full investigation of FBI domestic intelligence, including COINTELPRO and other programs aimed at domestic targets, FBI surveillance of law-abiding citizens. It don't say criminals. It says FBI surveillance of law-abiding citizens and groups, political abuses of FBI intelligence, and several specific cases of unjustified intelligence operations. So this is page 2. This is page 6. We will put before you information on an attitude which is pre-relevant in the intelligence field that in effect indicates that a subject for surveillance is to be regarded as guilty until proven innocent. Guilty until proven innocent. For example, I will read a quote relating to a civil rights leader in New York, where the New York office reported to the Bureau that the man was not sympathetic to communist causes, and the response from the Bureau was as follows. The Bureau does not agree with the expressed belief of the New York office that Mr. X is not sympathetic to the party cause. While there may not be any direct evidence that Mr. X is a communist, neither is there any direct substantial evidence that he is anti-communist. Therefore, the instruction is keep going, and hope to find it. The gentleman was subjected in the months surrounding that document to 3 COINTELPRO actions designed to discredit and destroy him on the basis of a record where they said they could not say he was a communist, but the instructions were to keep going. You might find that he is, and it has not been proven that he's not. We will then turn to the subject of how the Bureau collects information. We will tick off some of the particularly invasive techniques that have been used and pay special attention to the subject of informants, which turns out to be far from the greatest source of information. We will identify some of these key problems in the informant's area giving. Excuse me. We will then turn, Mr. Chairman, to the question of dissemination. Excuse me. It's hard to read through this. Dissemination and use. Talk about official dissemination to agencies regarding, ranging from local law enforcement to presidents, and then we will talk about officially dissemination, whereby the Bureau uses what they call friendly or cooperative news media to put out stories from their files based upon information which they regarded as harmful to the individuals whom they wish to injure. We will then turn to certain examples of particularly troublesome programs and programs to discredit, and destroy groups and individuals, examples of the use of what is called misinformation to prevent dissidents from meeting or engaging in protest activity, examples of efforts to neutralize people, that means to murder, by breaking up their marriages or ruining their jobs, examples of where decisions have been made to risk the death of suspect individuals by intentionally exacerbating tensions between groups known to be violent prone, and known to have a desire to injure each other, where they were intentional attacks taken by the by the Bureau with full authority to exacerbate that tension. So you see, that's their strategy. Right, so let's keep going. Since y'all want to be mad that I'm bearing arms in my house, right? This is my house. I'm in my house. I'm not outside. I'm in my fucking home, right? This is what the FBI is doing. This is page 7. For example, in the instance of the Civil Rights era, the Bureau at one point had a plan to select a leader who they thought ought to lead the blacks in this country, and at the same time to depose Martin Luther King, against whom they ran their most sustained and toughest program of any that we have seen. So the peaceful guy, Martin Luther King, they ran their most sustained and toughest program against. Oh. And you want me to stop bearing arms in my house so they can come into my house and just murder me? That's what you want? So you got nothing to say about FBI, and you got everything to say about me bearing arms in my house. Right? I'm gonna skip a lot of this because this is lengthy, but go to that link and look up page 7. Right? Then go to the same link and read page 8. The Bureau, with its 59 field offices staffed by more than 9,500 special agents, maintains a data bank on citizens, which includes criminal information, and this investigative data bank contains more than 50 million cards. The resources of the bank grows daily as the FBI conducts more than 2 million of the name check kind of investigations that we will talk about later. More than 2 million name checks annually. Since 1939, the Bureau has compiled more than 500,000 dossiers on American citizens, adding 65,000 to this total in 1972 alone. This bank of information is constantly fueled by arrest records, fingerprint files, taps, information on informants, and a myriad of other sources we will discuss at a later time. So you see why they arrested me and then threw me in prison? You see why the magistrate, Joseph Terrence Houlihan, said I'm innocent till proven guilty, then threw me in prison with 20,000 surety so they can get my retina scan, my fingerprints, my handprints, all that stuff, photographs of me. Why? Because I don't have a criminal record. Why? Because I'm not a fucking criminal. See what they're doing? So look up page 8. Right. Read page 12. Read page 12. Look it up. Look it up, because you think this is a fucking game. Look. For example, from the Black Nationalist initiated document, In 1967, agents of the FBI were instructed to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize. Then, when they got along to the new left, they added misinformation. And we are going to come to a series of factual instances where efforts were made to misinform and thereby prevent protest activities from taking place. Then you see where they attack families. All right. I'm not going to read this, but look at page 24. Look, prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist group. Read it for yourself. Page 25. I'm giving you the sources. Go to the link. Read the motherfucking sources. Look. In talking about many of the techniques, we have alluded to many of them as we have gone. We have talked about the business of misinformation. One of the other techniques utilized was to destroy the job or family life. And family life was a particularly opportune target in the Bureau's view and played on some fairly tender sensitivities. Without mention of the name reflected therein, if you look at Exhibit 19, you will see the Bureau's report on a COINTELPRO effort against a white female who was involved as an officer in what was resolved as a local black activist group. The way to discredit or neutralize this leader was to take attention away from activities of the group by creating another kind of distraction. The distraction read as follows. Dear Mr. Deleted, look, man, I guess your old lady doesn't get enough at home or she wouldn't be shucking and jiving with your black man in action, you dig? Like all she wants to integrate is the bedroom, and us black sisters ain't gonna take no second best from our men. So lay it on her, man, or get her the hell out of Deleted. It is signed a soul sister. So this is their tactic. They're gonna destroy families. It didn't say these people were violent. No, they didn't say that. Check this out. Mr. Smothers, we talked a little bit about factionalism earlier and a little bit about the increasing development or honing of various techniques, perhaps the culmination of the ability to apply certain kinds of techniques that have been learned in the early efforts against the communists and the socialist workers took place when the Bureau looked at the competing efforts of groups they defined as black nationalists and thought of ways to neutralize or destroy those groups. Exhibit 21 is a correspondence from 1968. A Bureau document indicated just how far the Bureau have departed from its law enforcement mission. The Bureau had departed from its law enforcement mission. It is shown on the chart at your left. Reading from that document, the Bureau pointed out that a serious struggle was taking place between the Black Panther Party and an other West Coast organization known as US. The struggle had reached such proportions that it is taking on the aura of gang warfare with the attendant threats of murder and reprisal. Recognizing these threats of murder and reprisal and the clear threat of violence, the FBI does not talk about law enforcement, but talks about initiating COINTELPRO activities designed to fully capitalize upon Black Panther Party and U.S. differences, as well as to exploit all avenues of creating further dissension in the ranks of the Black Panther Party. Recipient offices are instructed to submit imaginative and hard-hitting counterintelligence measures aimed at crippling the Black Panther Party. What we see here is the Bureau deciding that not only is law enforcement an adequate tool, but indeed that violence now or the promotion of violence becomes an acceptable technique as a basis for doing away with objectionable groups and organizations. A chart, Exhibit 22, that may help us, some if we like bright colors, represents our attempt and the attempt of our staff here to translate our rather vague directions and do a composite picture of COINTELPRO activity. Man. Look. Reach page 37. I'm not going to read this. Look how they target Martin Luther King, who's a peace activist. I'm deliberately not reading all of this so you can read it for yourself. This is page 51. I think we do have to ascertain if the material was used in some way. There certainly had been some allegations that this material was in fact used in some way. Whether it was in fact used by the White House or by someone else, I don't know. But I think this is the first time we have an incident that the White House requested such derogatory or personal material. Mr. Smothers, what in your judgment could have been the purpose of fomenting antagonism between the Black Panther Party and the Black nationalist group United Slaves? Mr. Smothers, well, it appears to me at this point, what we see with the Black Panther Party United Slaves dispute is the FBI's taking the concept of neutralization, the concept they have used earlier with the Communist and Socialist Worker Party, one step further. It is really an indication, I believe, and we see from the other documents, not insensitivity, but outright racism on the part of the Bureau. I think they view it as another neutralization effort, except when it comes to blacks, the most violent kinds of techniques were accepted. So keep fucking thinking that these people are fucking playing. Keep thinking these people are playing. I think they proceeded with the assumption that we would sure like to be rid of both of them. They appear to have a little bit more antagonism against the Black Panther Party. But if they were going to have gang fights, if they were going to kill each other, then it appeared to be a wonderful opportunity for the Bureau to promote. So in the case, instead of acting to calm the violence and to actually have it subside, they really were inciting it and encouraging it and confronting it and causing it. Is that a fair summation? I think that would be a fair statement, Senator. The memo urges the aggressive kinds of efforts, the coming up with creative ideas as to how one might fuel the fires, if you will. This is not the only incident where I think the FBI got in the middle of a situation when they saw the violence was apparent. The Blackstone Ranger Panther conflict in Chicago had shades of the same problem. The resolution, therefore, when they couldn't find a rival group, as the experience was with the Revolutionary Action Movement in Philadelphia, they simply worked on the local police as a means of taking them out of existence. I'm not going to read the rest. What I want you to do is the same thing I did. Go to senate.gov, as in Senate of the United States Congress.gov. Google search senate.gov, church committee, scroll down to the final report, click on that link, and click on basically everything. Read everything. That particular one I was reading from is volume 6 of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Excuse me. It's 1,005 pages. I was skimming through it for a few hours till like 1 a.m. and I printed out. There's way more in that packet that I'm not reading because I want you to see it for yourself. Because you know, there's been a lot of people saying, Jamal, you're making yourself a target, and Jamal, you're making us a target, and Jamal, we shouldn't militarize, and Jamal, let's keep it peaceful, and Jamal this and Jamal that, and they're really just afraid of what the FBI is willing to do to murder our people. So instead of them having a problem with the FBI and uniting and militarizing to prevent that, they rather just tell me to stop, which means lay down, accept it, let the FBI come to your house and murder you like they did Fred Hampton. And I'm like, no, why would I want them to do that to me? Right? So look it up for yourself. See that the FBI seen how Jeff Fort and the El Ruckins, which they refer to as the Black Peace Stones, was uniting all the gangs to prevent violence, to stop violence in Chicago. Look it up, Jeff Fort. Look it up, Chief Malik. Look it up. Look up images how they were wearing turbans and fezzes. They weren't no black people. Look at Jeff Fort's building called The Fort. Look how it says Morshine's Temple of America on it. Look Google images of Jeff Fort, Chief Malik wearing fezzes. Those weren't gang members. Those weren't black people. Those were Moors. So guess what they ended up doing to Jeff Fort, Chief Malik, and the El Ruckins? As you can tell, FBI was investigating them. But guess what they did? They entrapped them. That's what they did. Look it up. So, also, just so you know, in the final report, so there's another document, right? So that was volume 6, the FBI investigation, right? In this report right here called the final report. The final report, look how thick this is. This isn't even all of it. The whole thing is like 405 pages. The other one I was reading from is 1,005 pages. So there's more than enough information that prove that these people don't give a fuck about us, right? But in the final report, the church committee summarized that the FBI intentionally, knowingly, willingly, and deliberately violated the constitutional rights of our people, even when they were peaceful. And their argument was, if our enemy, this FBI said this, the FBI said this, the Federal Bureau of Investigation said this. Look it up in the report. If our enemy isn't abiding by the law, and I'm paraphrasing, we shouldn't either. And they were targeting the Student Nonviolent Party. They were targeting feminist organizations. They were targeting Martin Luther King Jr. and the whole peaceful turn the other cheek, march and pray. They were targeting the anti-Vietnam War party. So these people are anti-war and you're targeting them and you're using violence against them? They were targeting the Black Panther Party for self-defense, and the Black Panther Party was feeding children, and you're using violence against them? But people keep sliding in my DMs, messaging me saying, Jamal, you're making us a target. Jamal, you're doing this. Jamal, no. I was not born in 1975. I wasn't. I wasn't born in 1908 with the establishment of the FBI. I wasn't born in World War II. I wasn't born in World War I, which they admit that the FBI has used World War II tactics against our people. Look that shit up. Right? Now, let me just show you this real quick. Right? Like I said, I'm not going to go through the whole document. Because you have to look this shit up for yourself. Because these people aren't fucking playing. Their intention is to keep us oppressed forever. Their intention is to murder our people. What the fuck are we doing? Why is it okay for the FBI to admit, and then Congress also admitted, right? It's okay for them to admit that their goal is to disrupt, discredit, and neutralize our organizations, But it's not okay for me to say, hey, protect yourself. Why is it okay for the FBI to admit that they're using World War II military strategy against our people, but it's not okay for me to say, hey, militarize to protect yourself? Why is that okay? And it's so like mind-boggling for our people to constantly tell me that I'm making us a target when they've targeted us since fucking 1908. Officially, since 1908. Officially, that's what they admit to. I was not born in 1908. I'm not making us a target. Look, the committee's findings and conclusions concerning abuses in intelligence activity. Church committee. Sending an anonymous letter to the leader of Chicago street gangs stating that the Black Panther Party was supposed to have a hit out for you. The letter was suggested because it may intensify animosity and cause the street gang leader to take retaliation action. So now look up the L. Ruckins, look up Jeff Fort, look up the L. Ruckins and see how they're wearing turbans and fezzes. They're not no motherfucking street gang. Look. Look, this is what the FBI is doing. Because remember, the National Black Caucus in 2017 told you that they're doing COINTELPRO 2.0. So if I'm telling you COINTELPRO tactics and they're telling you that they're doing COINTELPRO 2.0, COINTELPRO 2.0, COINTELPRO 2.0, what the fuck you think they doing right now? What do you think they doing right now? Now, I'm not going to keep reading. I want you to go to the sources that I'm telling you to go to see it for yourself. Warrantless break-ins. Didn't they do that shit to me? Isn't that what they did to me? They did what? Hundreds of break-ins? Against who? American citizens? And domestic organizations? They were, what, to install microphones? What? What? They're attacking the First Amendment right? That's what the FBI does? Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? Look, Black Nationalist COINTELPRO, the strategy of the Black Nationalist COINTELPRO instituted in 1967 was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize such groups and their leadership, spokesmen, members, and supporters. The larger objectives were to counter their propensity for violence and to frustrate their efforts to consolidate their forces or to recruit new or youthful adherents. Look. In March 1968, the program was expanded from 23 to 41. 23 to 41 offices, and the following long-range goals were set forth. 1, prevent the coalition of militant Black nationalist groups. So what do you think our first fucking priority should be? Nationalize and then protect ourselves. Why? Because every nation has a military. Number 2, prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the movement. Naming specifically Dr. Martin Luther King, who was peaceful, Stokely Carmichael, and Elijah Muhammad. Prevent violence by pinpointing potential troublemakers and neutralizing them before they exercise their potential for violence. So that means murdering them. So what the fuck you mean? Prevent groups and leaders from gaining respectability. Are you smoking crack? Our people must be fucking smoking crack. Talking about, I can't have this in my house because I'm making us a target. Meanwhile, this is their fucking plan since 1908. They started doing name operations officially under COINTELPRO in 1956, but they've been doing it since 1908. They're just telling you what they were doing it under this name as. They've been doing it since before that. And if you do research, you'll fucking see that. Look. 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 You fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? All these fucking... Are you... Come on. Look. Look. Look at it for yourself. Look at it for yourself. I ain't gonna read it to you. Look at this shit for yourself. Look at it for yourself. Look at it for yourself. The findings treat the following themes that run through the facts revealed by our investigation of domestic intelligence activities. A. Violating and ignoring the law. That's what they do. That's what they do. Political abuse. That's what they do. The committee finds that the domestic activities of the intelligence community at times violated specific statutory prohibitions and infringed the constitutional rights of American citizens. That's what these motherfuckers are doing. But nah, I can't have this in my house. I can't have this in my house because you want them to murder me. That's what you want. You fucking play. Keep playing. Keep playing. Keep playing. The implementation and continuation of illegal and questionable programs would not have been possible without the cooperation or tacit approval of people at all levels within and above the intelligence community throughout many successive administrations. So for fucking years, the agents in the field, for their part, rarely questioned the orders they received. Their often uncertain knowledge of the law, coupled with the natural desire to please one's superiors, and with simple bureaucratic momentum, clearly contributed to their willingness to participate in illegal and questionable programs. The absence of any prosecution for law violations by intelligence agents inevitably affected their attitudes as well. Under pressure from above, to accomplish their assigned task, and without the realistic threat of prosecution to remind them of their legal obligations, it is understandable that these agents frequently acted without concern for issues of law and at times assumed that normal legal restraints and prohibitions did not apply to their activities. Significantly, those officials at the highest levels of government who had a duty to control the activities of the intelligence community sometimes set in motion the very forces that permitted lawlessness to occur, even if every act committed by intelligence agency was not known to them. Oh. So, what they do? They did break-ins. Look at what they violated. But you don't give a fuck. You want Jamal to stop telling you to bear arms and protect yourselves. You want them to continue to fuck our people over, murder our people, throw our people in prison for no fucking reason. That's what you want them to continue to do. That's what you want. By telling me to not bear arms, to fucking protect myself in my own home, you're telling me that you want them to murder me. That's what you're telling me. All right. Look, they suspended the writ of habeas corpus. Why do you think Chief Malik is in jail for 165 years? One of the most abusive of all FBI programs was an attempt to discredit Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a peaceful guy. He wasn't saying protect yourself. He was a fucking peaceful guy. And one of the most abusive programs was against the peaceful guy. Our people are smoking fucking crack. Former FBI Assistant Director William C. Sullivan testified that he never heard anyone raise the question of legality or constitutionality. Never. Oh, all right. Former director of the CIA, Richard Helms testified publicly that he never seriously questioned the legal status of the 20-year CIA New York mail opening project because he assumed his predecessor, Allen Dulles, had made his legal peace with it. From time to time, he said the agency got useful information out of it, so he permitted it to continue throughout his 7-year tenure as director. Are you crazy? All right. Okay. William C. Sullivan, who participated in the drafting of the Hudson Plan and served on the United States Intelligence Board and as FBI Assistant Director for Intelligence for 10 years, stated that his entire experience in the intelligence community, he never heard legal issues raised at all. We never gave any thought to the realm of reasoning because we were just naturally pragmatists. Oh, yeah, I bet. The one thing we were concerned about was this. Will this course of action work? Will it get us what we want? Will we reach the objective that we desire to reach? As far as legality is concerned, morals or ethics, it was never raised by myself or anybody else. I think this suggestion really in government that, I think this suggestion really in government that we are more amoral. In government, I am not speaking for everybody. The general atmosphere is one of amorality. Oh my God. Oh yeah. And you want to be real fucking peaceful, don't you? Look, genocide. They admit to genocide. These people admit to genocide, and you saying, "Oh no, let's just be peaceful." Are you fucking smoking crack? You must be smoking crack. Must be crack all through your body right now. Look, they admit to trying to set up Jeff Fort, Chief Malik. They admit to it. Look, when a member of a nonviolent group was successfully mislabeled as an informant, the result was alienation from the group. So even if you're peaceful, even if you are fucking peaceful, they're gonna commit genocide on you. Let's be fucking serious. All these motherfuckers talking about know your enemy and oh my God, you're so fucking woke. Shut the hell up. In the final analysis, however, the purpose of this committee's work is not to allocate blame amongst individuals. Oh no, we can't blame them. Indeed, to focus on personal culpability may divert attention from the underlying institutional causes and thus may become an excuse for inaction. Before this investigation, domestic intelligence had never been systematically surveyed. For the first time, the government's domestic surveillance program, as they have developed over the past blah 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 blah, based on our full record and the findings which we have set forth in part 3 above, the committee concludes that domestic intelligence activity has threatened and undermined the constitutional rights of the Americans to free speech, association, and privacy. It has done so primarily because the constitutional system for checking abuse of power has not been applied. Oh. Okay. Hold on. Let me show you something real quick. Let me show you something real fast. All right. This is the out of the 1,000-page thing I was talking to you about. All right. Let's just go to some of the reports that they have. All right. Let's just go to some. I want to make sure I'm on the right page. All right. Cool. That's the last one. So these are all reports. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I'm not gonna read this. I'm gonna skip to. Remember, this is FBI. This is FBI. This is your beloved government that you trying to vote in. This is them. Look, this is them. I'm not gonna read all this to you. I'm gonna read this one right here. This is page 389 of that 1,005 page report that I was telling you about. This is the goal of the FBI. Prevent the coalition of militant black nationalist groups. And unity their strength. A truism that is no less valid for all this triteness. An effective coalition of black nationalist groups might be the first step towards a real Mau Mau in America, the beginning of a true black revolution. So what do you think our priority number one should be? But nah, we want to be fucking stupid. Number 2, prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement. This right here that's blocked out is Malcolm X. Malcolm X, that's what it says. On the unredacted report, look that shit up online. It says Malcolm X might have been such a messiah. He is the martyr of the movement today. Why? Because they fucking murdered him. Then it talks about how Elijah Muhammad, Stokely Carmichael, and Martin Luther King all aspired to this position. Then it says Elijah Muhammad is less of a threat because of his age. Then it says Martin Luther King, or King, could be a very real contender for this position should he abandon his supposed white liberal doctrines, meaning nonviolence, and embrace black nationalism. Then it says Stokely Carmichael has the necessary charisma to be a real threat in this way. That's why they called his mother, threatened his mom, and then he fled the fucking country. Look this shit up, man. Look up what the FBI is doing. Been doing. Look that shit up. Look it up. Look it up. And then again, look up how the National or the Congressional Black Caucus told you that COINTELPRO is alive to this very motherfucking day. So, anybody sliding in my DMs talking about blah, whatever the fuck you gotta say, if you ain't talking about militarizing, protecting our people, if you ain't talking about that, then you're on the side of you're on their side. I'm not saying attack anyone. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying protect your fucking self. Why is that so hard? You can get access to all this shit as a civilian. Protect yourself. Why? Because the FBI has an entire militarized plan that they learned from World War II, tactics they learned from World War II, and that they developed in the 60s and 70s against our leaders that they're using to this very fucking day. If that's not enough for our people to wake the fuck up, when Congresswoman Barbara Lee said, "Wake up! COINTELPRO 2.0 is real and on the rise," then I don't fucking know. Remember that one time Kanye West was like, "Slavery's a choice," and y'all got mad? All right.